Hey y'all, this is Beauty Manifested and I am Danny DeTiege, and I'm going to be talking about growing watermelons in North Texas. So I just started my seeds yesterday. It's April 10th today, and I started them last night. I have a tray with okra, melons, and moringa. They all like similar soil temperatures and will germinate at around the same time, so I didn't have any issues starting them together in one tray. I'm growing 15 different melon varieties. Oh wait, no, because there's a tray of 18, and I'm doing 4 different okra varieties, 3 different moringa plants, so that's 7. Okay, so I'm doing 10 melon varieties, and one of them I'm growing 2 of. I won't say I did the varieties that I am doing in a different video, but basically for growing watermelons in North Texas, we do have heavy clay soil. I'm gonna grow them in the ground. I've grown them in pots. I've grown them in raised beds. I haven't mounded them, but I might mound them this year, but I'm gonna grow them in the ground. I grew them in the ground last year, and I definitely got the biggest, sweetest watermelons I've ever had, so I'm super duper excited, and I've actually amended my in-ground bed even better. Last year was its first year of that. I had just built that bed last year, and I grew the watermelons right away. So this year, the bed's more established. I've added more compost. I've added more expanded shell. And so I think that this year is going to be even better for the watermelons, and I'm super duper excited because the watermelons thrived with honestly very little care last year, and I grew them near tomatoes, and the tomatoes did not do well in that bed, and the watermelons did great. So that kind of lets me know that watermelons don't need the best of soil conditions really to grow well, because when I grew them in the raised bed with much better quality soil, honestly they didn't even do as good. So that leads me to believe that watermelons do well with a little bit of neglect. They're actually desert plants, and so I love growing watermelons. They're super easy to grow. The only thing that you need is a lot of space, because they do get super duper big. So for in North Texas, the soil temperatures that the watermelons prefer is between 80-90 degrees, and it's not that warm yet here in Texas. I actually did try to start some seeds outside in the soil, and they haven't come up yet because it's just a little bit too cold. Like when I went out this morning, it was only 59. It's been in the 70 all week, so there's no way that the soil could be 80-90 degrees quite yet. So I went ahead and started a batch indoors in case the ones outside don't get to germinate. If I have a bunch of extras, then I don't know what I'm going to do. But yeah, so you start your seeds indoors in April. It's April 10th here. You transplant them out when your soil temperatures are about 80-90 degrees. You don't want to start them too early because the watermelons grow super, super quick, and they will quickly outgrow your seed growing station. And so it's best to start them absolutely no more than 4 weeks before you're going to put them in the ground. So whenever it might hit 80 degrees where you live, you can start them 4 weeks before then. You can also just look it up online, but you want to make sure you don't get it from a general gardening page. You need to get it from someone who's gardening in your specific area. Not even just your zone, because that can vary a lot, but your specific area. Most watermelons, some say they mature as quick as 80 days, but I would say 90 to 120 days. So that's 3 months. So for me, I will start harvesting watermelons in August, which is pretty exciting for me because it's super duper hot in Dallas during August. And so you're not going to be able to harvest very much at that time. But having the watermelons allows me to have a harvest all throughout August as well. And I love that. So I will have something to harvest every single month of the summer. And that's why I like growing the watermelons, so that I can have something to do in August. The way that I grow them is I start them inside. I actually don't always start them inside. I've bought transplants before, which worked well for me, but they don't have as many varieties when you do it that way. There's nothing wrong with buying transplants, but I wanted to try a lot of different kinds, so you can buy transplants. I usually start them in the ground, but I wanted to get an early start on my watermelons, and maybe I can harvest like early August or maybe even end of July. So that's why I'm trying to start a little bit earlier than I normally would. Yeah, so I'll start them. I'll transplant them out into the garden, and when I put them in the garden, I'll dig a hole and I'll put some granular fertilizer in the hole, and then I will use a liquid fish emulsion fertilizer every single week. up until about July. And I'll know it's time to stop fertilizing when the watermelons are like a good decent size. And then at that point I cut them dry. I don't do anything with them after that at all. I just let them go. And then around the time that it says on the seed packet that they should be maturing, I will, and this is for watermelons. With melons like honeydew or cantaloupe, you can actually smell them when they're ready. But for the watermelons, I can't smell them. So around the time that I think they're going to be ready, I will start like knocking on them. You know how you do in the grocery store to see if a watermelon's ready? I'll pick it up and I'll see how it feels. And I just kind of test my luck. I have accidentally harvested some watermelons a little bit too early, and then they don't taste quite as good. Like there's a little too much white part. But it happens. I'm getting better. I'm not a professional watermelon grower yet, but last year I had a really, really good harvest. I had about 10 really juicy, delicious watermelons, and then maybe like 4 or 5 ones that were not quite as good as the other ones. And the best thing about watermelons is that you can save the seeds. Normally when you grow a plant, you have to let it like go to seed. You have to let it go way past the point of eating in order to get the seeds. But I can harvest a watermelon to eat, keep those seeds, and they will work perfect for growing. I don't have to do anything crazy to harvest seeds to grow watermelons again next year. So that makes it super duper easy. Harvesting in August. I fertilize weekly up until they get to the size that they need to be, and then I cut them cold. I don't do anything with them. The smaller melons like Sugar Baby Bush, Minnesota Midget, any of the smaller melons, or even a full-size cantaloupe usually can be grown in a big 10-gallon pot. Bigger than 10 gallons would probably be preferred, but I've grown them in 10-gallon pots and I didn't have any problem. I used the grow bags. And then I harvest them for fresh eating, juicing, saving seeds, and my favorite watermelon meal is watermelon salad with basil, with fresh basil. It's so good. I got it from Oprah. You can put tahini on it too if you're from Texas. But definitely, I love the watermelons. It's one of my favorite things to grow. I dedicate a huge space in my garden to the watermelons, which like really means something because I have a pretty small space garden. I don't have that much space. I'm constantly trying to find like more room, having to squeeze things in pots while still keep things like kind of aesthetically pleasing. So for me to dedicate a whole bed to watermelons is kind of a big deal. And I'm really, really, really excited for my watermelon harvest this year. So like I said, I just started the seeds today, and I will keep you guys updated throughout the process, and I'll even show you the harvest when we get to August. So I love you guys. Stay beautiful and grow something lovely.